Hi, welcome to the show. I'm Ivory. Roz is out today, so I'm on my own. She'll be back with me next week. Today's topic is evidence of spiritual growth. And before I get started with that, hello to our listeners in Covington, Louisiana. Thank you so much for being here and supporting the show. We appreciate it so much. Those of you watching, listening to the show right now, would almost bet 100% that you are on a spiritual path. And so that's why you tuned in today, because you want to know that you're making some progress with your spiritual journey, with your own spiritual growth. And it's such a individualized personal journey. Sometimes it can be hard to see that growth in yourself. Others might tell you, wow, you've come a long way, or they might say, make note on that you've made some progress on things they don't even know you've been working on, like, wow, you've really gotten a grip on your anger, or, oh my goodness, it seems like you're really more comfortable with yourself. And that's great. But the most important thing is to know within yourself and see it within yourself. So I want to help you be able to do that so that you feel some assurance within yourself that you are indeed making progress. So as you're going through the stages of spiritual growth, you're on your spiritual path, you're working on yourself, the material world seems really attractive at first, and the spiritual might seem empty and like a hard thing to even start with, which is why a lot of people put it off for a long time or never step on a spiritual path. But if you follow that path, then eventually it leads to knowing your true self and that bliss of just getting in touch with what's really important and not all the surface things. There's nothing lacking for the life of a great yogi. They don't feel that anything has been given up by making that life choice. And in fact, it's the reverse. Great yogis feel that by not following a spiritual path, eternal bliss has been renounced for the sake of a few passing moments of happiness. So the material world is like this dry garden waiting for the knowledge of the divine to make it bloom. And in the material world, you only have the energy of the body. But on the spiritual path, you tap into what's called divine consciousness, cosmic energy. The material world can be seen as a prison. The spiritual path leads to what truly is unbounded freedom. You're always at a junction in your path. It doesn't matter how long you've been on it. I've been on a serious spiritual path since I was 18. And so decades and decades of this. And I still can tell I'm at a junction of further growth. I truly believe it's not just this lifetime, but many, many lifetimes that we're working on our soul. We're working on our true self, our higher self, our spirit, our soul, the part of us that's eternal. And so we're going to hopefully make some progress in this lifetime, but it's taken us many lifetimes to even get to this point. And there's so many lessons on the way. Truth or illusion, material or eternal. Those are some of the dilemmas that we face all the time. Thinking about stepping on a spiritual path, continuing on a spiritual path, our ego will constantly try to keep a hold on you. So choose wisely. Everything you do is a spiritual act if you do it with awareness. Find your path and inner peace. So how do you do that? You be regular and disciplined with your spiritual practice. And again, a spiritual practice is the things you do on a daily basis to further yourself spiritually. It can be prayer, meditation, affirmations, gratitude, many, many things that you can do that are going to help you. Don't be disheartened if you wander off the path for a while. I liken it to dieting. So let's say you're on a diet and you're doing great, and then you go to some party and eat things you wouldn't normally, and you gain a couple pounds. Does that mean, well, you're at a choice, you're at a junction? Do you then just throw it all in? Oh, I ate that. Now that's it. It's all over. That's it. No sense going further. I'm going to quit. Or you go, okay, I messed up. I'm human. Now I'm going to get back on it again. Same with your spiritual discipline. You miss doing something one day. The biggest thing is you're going to feel a difference in your energy. You're going to feel a difference in how you act, react, and how people treat you and react to you. So it changes your energetic field negatively to not do your spiritual practice. Ultimately, your spiritual journey becomes a way of life. And I like to advise people just like add one little thing till it becomes an easy part of your routine, then add one little thing. Not all of it at once. It's just too much. It's kind of like finding this lush oasis in the desert of mundane living, and it's there for anyone. And I'm not preaching a religion. I'm not touting one above another. This isn't about religion. This is about your spiritual path, your personal relationship with your higher self, with angels, with God, with everything divine. So let's say you've been devoting months, years, or like me, decades of your life to your spiritual practice. Unlike physically tangible pursuits, there's no easy way to know if you're making progress, and it's a big deal, or when it comes, especially when it comes to your inner spiritual life. So if you're wondering whether you're actually growing and evolving, and whether spiritual growth is indeed occurring in your life, I'm going to start giving you some clear indications here. These are not by no means the only signs, but I consider them to be some of the major signs. So first would be you embrace challenges as lessons and opportunities. So whether your car breaks down or someone you love is ill, you sense that there's an underlying lesson. Probably you've learned through experience, there's an underlying lesson here and an opportunity in this obstacle that's been placed before you. It's not just happening to you. It's not just happening around you. It's a lesson. And so when you can see that underlying lesson, you stop feeling like a victim and you feel like a student of life. So in other words, life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. So as horrible as things can be sometimes, it really does help when you can get to a point where you can say, all right, that was absolutely horrendous, and I don't want to go through that again, but what did I learn? How have I become a better person, or a more sensitive, compassionate, kind, loving, aware, or less angry, less reactive? You can ever be as much as what you're not anymore as what you're becoming. There's that balance always in our spiritual journey. So when you can get to the point where you're automatically, like as quickly as possible, thinking, what's the lesson to be learned here? That is such a big sign to me that you are making progress, because you're stepping out of the purely human experience and thinking like an eternal soul, which is the truth of what you are. The next thing is that you're able to see through the seduction of the material world. What do I mean by that? There was a time when you probably loved buying things, focusing on enhancing your social status, earning more money, even indulging in spiritual materialism. And so making money, buying things, hedonistic pursuits as a rule. But there comes a point where you understand the material world does not ultimately bring you the deep happiness you seek. There's nothing wrong with having money, but what do you do with it? Do you do with it to be greedy, to be egotistical, to hold yourself above others, to set yourself above and apart? Or do you use your money to try to make positive changes in the world to help those who are less fortunate, and especially to be humble with what you have, grateful and humble? But more importantly, there just comes this point where you just don't care that much about that anymore. For me, I'll just admit this right up front. For many decades as an adult, I didn't care so much about the money I made. I wanted to make sure I had enough to pay my bills, support my daughter, all of that. But I really didn't get jobs. I didn't go after jobs just because the money it would pay. I worked in mental health for a very long time, serving low-income and homeless people, and I was so passionate about it. I absolutely loved my clients. I loved the work. I felt like I was absolutely doing what God wanted me to do. And It was only when I started getting closer to retirement age that I thought, uh-oh, I better start paying some attention to this. So like, I do care a little more about making money now, only that I'm being practical, that retirement age is not far away from me now. And I need to think about this. And so please don't beat yourself up about thinking about money, but it's not all about money. For me, it's always been the most important thing is, how am I helping people? Am I helping them in deep, meaningful ways? Am I making the world a better place? Am I lifting people up? Am I supporting people? Am I loving them? And when you can say that about yourself, and I know so many of you can, because I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of you and talking to you and hearing from you. And believe me, I feel your energy. I feel the love in your heart. And so many of you have done a great job. You're raised up really high in your frequency. I can feel it, but I'm hoping through these you'll feel it as well. So when you start wanting to get rid of things, when you're wanting to cut back, you don't enjoy shopping just for shopping. You're more cognizant of waste, not wasting things. You're thinking about other people and more important things than just getting more stuff. So that's kind of a sign you understand that there's happiness is to be gained through other methods. You can be happy with a lot of money, but a lot of people with a lot of money are very miserable people. So we just don't want to get stuck in the thought that, oh, if I just made more money, I'd be happy. No, you've got to take care of that from the inside. The next thing is your sensitivity is heightened. I do not want my sensitivity to heighten at all further than I seem to have from childhood. As an empath, I feel like my sensitivity is off the charts. But in the past, you might have been living in kind of, basically I would describe it as being a numb state where you're disconnected from your body, your heart, your mind, and even your soul. And now you're so much more aware of what's going on inside and around you. And you might experience more empathic suffering, which can often feel like a curse and a gift. It felt like a curse to me until I started doing my spiritual work full time and realized how I could use it to further help people. And so now I do embrace it as a gift, but it doesn't mean I want to feel everyone's pain and emotions and suffering all the time. But one way, a very specific way that you know that you're making progress is your empathy is increasing. So that kind of segues into this next one, which is you feel more love and compassion, both for yourself, others, and the world as a whole. With that heightened sensitivity, you feel more connected to yourself, and you feel like you are part of the human race. Like we're all here together on this planet, spinning in the void of space. We're in it together, and you feel that and it's a mystery when you just can't understand, when there's people who don't get that, it's that us against them. Like you no longer feel that us against them thinking. You have more true compassion and empathy for others, even those who you will never meet, who you'll never run into personally, don't know personally, even those who might be harmful to themselves, others, and the planet itself. You can see them doing harm. And yet you feel compassion for them because you understand they're where they're meant to be on their path. So there's some lesson they're learning in being who and what they are at this time in this lifetime. And we have to honor. We don't have to like it. We don't have to support it, but we can feel compassion for them, because sometimes it's just awful to be in a place in a lifetime that you're learning some really powerful lesson and you set it up so you have to do it a real hard way. That's not easy for anybody. So your open heart can bring you more joy, but also more pain. So you're feeling more. If you're crying more easily than you used to, you're feeling it. I felt so much in my heart chakra, like literally like over the heart. You can feel pain there when you're around others or you're watching something on TV. I was reading something about refugees in another country and the starvation of so many children, and I just thought I was going to die. Just listening, just reading this, just the pain that I felt in my body, tuning into that. So if you're having experiences like that, another really clear sign that you are making really meaningful spiritual progress. The next one is you stop seeing things in black and white. If you've been taught anything by your spiritual awakening, you had a Kundalini awakening, or you've gone through a dark night of the soul, there's so much more to life than meets the eye. Something that may seem negative can turn out to be positive. Something that seems beautiful may be ugly deep down. Everything and everyone have two sides that are interdependent. Nothing is totally black and white. So I know for me, like this is something I talk about a lot in sessions with clients, is how I've realized that some of the worst times of my life, when I went through dark nights of the soul, when I came out of the other side, I shed something that needed desperately to be shed, sometimes more than one something. And an opportunity, or more than one, was put before me, and I shifted forward personally and spiritually in a major way every time. And I think sometimes that happens because we need to be woken up. We're stuck in a routine. We're so busy doing work, family, all the things we have to do, taking care of the house, that we're not paying attention, and sort of like God and the angels just shake everything up, and they're like, all right, we'll see if this does it. Maybe she'll pay attention now. And it's always done amazing things. It's hell to go through some certain times, but there's always something on the other side of that. So every person, we don't want to put them on a pedestal if they're wonderful, because then that sets them up for failure, because they're only human. They're going to mess up. They're going to disappoint you. Sometimes they're going to show their weakness, their vulnerability. And maybe you don't like that, but you know what? That's part of being a human. And the same for a person who you might view as a very negative, destructive person. They probably have kids they love, and parents they love, and pets they love. There's parts of them that are good. So none of us are all bad or all good. Not a one of us on this planet. And that's something that, if you're seeing that already and you're shaking your head, you're like, yeah, good for you. Pat yourself on the back, because you're making progress. Another one is that you see that life has cycles, and it's like a spiral. Instead of getting stuck in one mode or being of mindset, you're beginning to see that life is cyclical. There are good times and bad times. After spring comes autumn, and after day comes night. All things are destined to come and go, rise and fall. And as such, you don't get affected as you once did when life waxes and wanes. It's just part of the life, part of the journey of ensoulment. And one thing I noticed years ago, I think it's kind of funny to say I noticed this, but I think you have to live life for a bit to really see these cycles. But when people are like, oh, this is so bad, I'm like, okay, the truth is, when everything's going right in our life, we better appreciate that and really tune in and enjoy it, because that time is rare. When no one's sick, no one just died, no one's losing their home, nobody's got a serious painful illness, they're not in pain all the time. Everything's kind of going status quo. Enjoy it. Ride that wave while you can, because most of the time, things are happening. That's how life is, right? All the things I just mentioned, illness, death, financial issues, strife between family members, all the stuff that's going on all the time. It's going to happen. And then things are going to smooth out again, hopefully. And you're going to have times when you feel kind of depressed and hopeless. And then you're going to rise up and you're going to feel really optimistic again. That's how life is. And so just accept that, go with it. And if you've come to that conclusion already, it tells me you're either not real young because you've been doing this a while, or you're one of those wonderful youth who joined us. I just love them, the younger generations who are coming in, the new generations of indigo children who are just so spiritually awake and self-aware, and I love them. And I truly think they're going to do wonderful things to help all of mankind, because they're born with a lot of this awareness that it's taken those of us like my generation decades to get to this place. So the next thing is that you become less attached to mental stories. So let's say you've been devoting a long time to your practice and you're wondering whether you're evolving. You are, you are. I always suggest people keep a diary, a journal really, of their progress and anything amazing, whether it's angelic experiences, paranormal, celestial, supernatural, and how you're feeling, like important dreams you have, or realizations or insights, whatever it may be. Date it, put the time, and just shortly, what it was you experienced or thought. That's a wonderful way. I've been keeping those for 40 years now, and I love reading back in my early journals because even these amazing things that happen, like I'll realize I totally forgotten about that. Or I can see the turning points where, like, wow, I had a really big shift forward at that time because I had this realization, and then this one, and this one, and it really triggered this in my life. And that's another way to track your progress, to really see where you're at. The next thing is you find it easier to slow down and do nothing. I've become very good. I have a friend, we joke with each other. What are you doing? I'm loafing. Oh, good. I'm loafing too. I need some loafing time. I grew up in a family where if you weren't doing something active outside, at that moment, like, you're doing nothing. And I was a voracious reader from age 2. I felt like laying there reading a book was doing something. And I'm here to tell you, I still do. So our thinking minds are always wanting us to do something, get something, achieve. That's how we got into this fast-paced go, go, go lives. But the soul, the real eternal part of us, finds nourishment in slowing down and enjoying life as it is. So yeah, get outside, but go sit by a stream. I take my harp or my Native American flute or another instrument to a place in Sedona that's got this high vibe energy, and it's on a creek, and I'll just play there or sing because it just feels so good to be there. And that is taking care of me. That's part of my spiritual practice. But maybe it's that you just need to lay down and rest for a while. That conditioning of go, 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 you can break the cycle. It's not that you don't want to get things done, but you don't have to be doing all the time. And I'm going to say along with that would be giving yourself the mental health of days off and vacations, even if it's staycations. We've gotten into a bad habit in this country of working so much, working all the time, working every day. I work from home now, and I have to really police myself, like, do not go in that office, do not do that just because you have time. This is your day off, go do something fun. And it does me a world of good. I highly recommend it. The next thing is, if you're more interested in letting go of the old than gaining the new, that's a great sign of growth. There's an ancient wisdom text from the Taoist tradition that's the topic of letting go constantly arises. And therefore, a huge part of authentic spiritual growth is the capacity to not only accept that we have to let go of people, things, hobbies, work, homes, hometowns, but preferring it to gaining more. So it comes back to that again of getting rid of things. You enjoy getting rid of things. You maybe pared down to a smaller home. I truly feel always when I hear about the tiny home movement, it is part of this interest in letting go, paring down, living smaller, getting rid of so much material things. It is part of a spiritual shift in the world and within people. It's one of the signs. So you might show yours in a different way. Maybe you just move to a smaller home. Maybe you just get rid of things. Maybe you decide to do what my friend Terry Ann did, and you sell your home and all your stuff and move into a travel trailer, and off you go to explore the country, and live in that for a while. That she had quite an adventure. And I know a lot of people who are doing things like that. Great. That's great. We're not here to judge other people. Judging is not a sign of spiritual growth. Coming to a place where we don't judge others is spiritual growth. So there's another one. So another thing is to have the capacity to be discerning. Spiritual growth is not just all about feeling love, bliss, and expansion, although those are certainly parts of it. But as we deepen and mature, spiritual growth is also about the capacity to think clearly for yourself, distinguish truth from falsehood. A lot of that is tapping into how it feels because there's so much lies going on around the world right now. People lying about the very things they're doing, like saying others are doing what they're doing. It's become madness. And the only thing left is to tap into how it feels deep, and you have to work on your intuition to do that. So this ability to use the mind like a sword is what's known as spiritual discernment. If you have that and you find that you can listen to things, but not take it to heart, not embrace it, but then think about it and take a moment, more than a moment, to tune into it. How does it feel? I always ask my angels too, like, what do you think about that? Sometimes I'm torn. Sometimes I'm torn between what somebody I care about wants me to think and believe, and what I'm already thinking and believing. And my angels are the tiebreaker. So, but mostly I go by what I think and believe. And part of it is because my angels are talking to me all the time. And they know everything happening behind the scenes. They know the truth of what's happening with me and the world. They know what's coming down the pike here. I don't, so I do tap into that, and I use my intuition a lot. And you don't have to be a psychic to have great intuition. So if you have that spiritual discernment, it tells me you have been developing yourself spiritually. And therefore, even if you haven't done it intentionally, your intuition has become significantly better. So good for you. The next thing is you can access more moments of what's called ordinary magic. While it's normal at the beginning of your spiritual journey to kind of want glitz and glamour and exciting experiences, the more you grow, the more you're at this, the more you recognize the beauty of what's already here right now. And that ordinary magic can be accessed whenever we are present, grounded in the now, and connected with the heart and soul. So I love to call that the smell the roses stage in spiritual growth. Can you go outside and just be absorbed in the beauty of a rose? Can you look at the rain falling and just kind of get lost in it? Can you look out at a beautiful natural scene and just appreciate what an extraordinary planet we have? Stand at the ocean and literally feel small, like the song says, and just see, oh my goodness, this earth is just so huge, so magnificent. We need to protect it. All of these things, and just like the joy of pets and children and people we love, friends and family, all these pleasures, food that is good, delicious and healthy, and a home that's safe and secure and warm. All of these things, these are everyday pleasures, little, if you want to call that sort of normal magic, but I say everyday pleasures we need to really feel deep gratitude about. Not everyone in the world has anything close to that. We're so lucky. So hopefully through listening to all of this today, you can really see the growth you're making, and that it motivates you to keep going. No matter what, keep going. You're doing the right thing. Anytime that you are focusing on making yourself better person than you were the day before, that you're thinking about and doing something to help your neighborhood, your city, the state, the country, the planet, you're doing great on your spiritual journey. You're making great spiritual progress. And I guarantee you, your angels and guides are just beaming with delight, so happy at what you're doing. So thank you for tuning in today. It's always a pleasure. I want to tell you, next Friday, our topic is healing circles. And those are kind of like, I'll tell you a little brief. It's about groups of people who get together to do healing on themselves and maybe others who need it. And I have a lot of experience with that. And it's becoming a bigger and bigger phenomenon out in the country. I thought we'd talk about that. You might want to look into getting into one or forming one, but we'll talk about the benefits of that. And in the meantime, we hope that you have an absolutely enlightening week.